count it, 8 completions for over 40 yards. They were better against Taylor Heineke last week, but didn't have to account for an absolute freak of nature in Derrick Henry steamrolling them on every drive. Seriously, he's one of the most unique and incredible players we'll ever have the privilege of watching, so enjoy it while it lasts. Henry's facing 8+ defenders in the box almost 40% of the time, and the Chiefs' run defense is already horrible, so they're going to have to account for him all game long. That's why this game has an insane 56.5-point total, too, and the Titans are only 4.5-point dogs at home. Tennessee has seen a whopping 18 of 22 games go for more than 50 total points since the start of last season, and this one could honestly see 70+. With Julio Jones dealing with yet another hamstring injury and likely missing this game, Brown will be the clear top options in the Titans' passing offense. Last year, he had a 26% target share, and that was with Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith alongside him. This week, he'll be playing next to Chester Rogers and Nick Westbrook-Akina, while opposing Patrick Mahomes in a still electric Kansas City offense. The A.J. Brown blowout performance is coming this week. Book it. I usually don't talk about quarterbacks and start-sit videos until the bye weeks hit because, well, they don't really matter. But this week, a whole lot different. We have 6 teams on byes, and we'll be missing 4 quarterbacks who are top 10 in fantasy points through 6 weeks. Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and even Kirk Cousins. That brings us to Tua Tagovailoa, who returned last week after a 3-game hiatus, only to lose to the Jaguars in London, handing them their first win since the internet was created. Tua posted some solid fantasy totals, though, and that's all that matters. And he could turn in a repeat performance this week against the Falcons, who Football Outsiders has ranked 30th in pass defense DVOA this season. Brian Flores might legitimately be out of a job if Miami drops to 1-6, but they'll have every opportunity to hang around against Atlanta. The Dolphins have the 4th lowest game script adjusted run play percentage in the league this year. Granted, they never even attempted to run against the Bucs because no one does. And they're coming off a game where Tagovailoa threw 47 times. So while Will Fuller remains on the IR, Tua still has some quality weapons in Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker if he returns, and Myles Gaskin as a pass catcher out of the backfield. Tua is available in 81% of Yahoo leagues and is a perfect streaming option against the Falcons secondary that's been trashed by even half-decent passing attacks this year. Dallas Goedert became the clear beneficiary following Zach Ertz's trade, going from a near 50-50 timeshare at tight end to the clear top option at the position. From weeks 3 through 5, Goedert was out on the COVID-19 reserve list in week 6. Ertz only ran 3 fewer routes than Goedert and out-targeted his cohort 21-12 over that span. With Goedert expected to be activated in time for week 7, given that the Eagles played last Thursday, and there being no competition behind them at the position, Goedert's role should expand significantly starting on Sunday. 43% of Jalen Hurts' red zone attempts this season have gone to his tight ends, while 60% inside the 10 and 75% inside the 5 have gone to the position. You have to love that. Ertz had a near 20% target share since week 3 and played north of 50% of snaps in every game, which hurt Goedert plenty considering the Eagles aren't using nearly as many 2 tight end sets as they did in previous years. Jack Stoll is no threat, and no other tight end has even played a snap this season. So it's entirely plausible that Goedert begins seeing 80+% of snaps or more going forward. Even when Tyree Jackson, an undrafted converted quarterback, returns, there's no reason to believe he'll carve out.
All right, welcome in. Good morning to you all out there. Thanks for riding with us on the Awesemo Fantasy Football Show on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. Myself, Nick Lepre, Chris is producing. We appreciate you. Yahoo is here powering this show, and we'll take all of your start sits. The super chat in effect, definitely not necessary, but we appreciate it. We also appreciate all of you piling off from Nick's stream on here. Even with the Dolphins ad, he's geared up, ready to go with this gigantic matchup between the Dolphins and the Falcons, to the point where you had the gear on this morning.
Yeah, the biggest of matchups. If the Dolphins had their pick, this would be a tank bowl matchup, but we don't have our pick for some reason. So
yeah, I wonder where that pick went. What's up, man? You ready to go this week?
I'm ready to go. I worked a lot last night, so I'm quite tired, but I'm always fired up to talk about some football. Talk about the Dolphins, especially. That's just such a fun game to talk about. Not really. So let's just get on into talking about all these injuries that are just happening for no reason this week.
I honestly, man, I thought we would be, and Rashad, we're going to get to you in 1 second here to kick things off on the super chat. I thought we would be in a situation where I would have to just bring you back every couple of minutes because you would just be on cloud nine that the Dolphins traded for Deshaun Watson. We were really banking on that. We planned around that. This show specifically today for that.
Yeah, exactly. I lit a shrine for his name, and it didn't even work. Very disappointing.
Is it not going to work at all?
I don't know. It worked for the Eagles when they lit one for Nick Foles, so maybe it'll work for the Dolphins.
See? All right, well, let's talk about injuries. We have a bunch to get to. Rashad, though, in the super chat right away, pick up Bateman or Higbee for Khalil Herbert.
That's a great question. So I think that if you were to play one this week, if you're looking to just play a guy because you can't play Khalil Herbert, because I think with Damian Williams back for the Bears, you can't play Khalil Herbert this week. I think it's just a huge risk, right? Because the Bucs defense is so good up against the run, and Khalil Herbert's not a guy that's going to catch 5-6 passes like Damian Williams could to kind of negate that. So my lean would be to pick up Tyler Higbee this week. I think he could easily score up against the Detroit Lions. This is a double revenge game, revenge for Jared Goff, revenge for Matthew Stafford. I'm not sure if Matthew Stafford actually wants any revenge here because, he's probably happy that he's gone. But my lean would be to go with Higbee. I think Bateman will be a guy that I'm very excited about maybe 2-3 weeks from now. But where we're sitting right now, I'm not very excited about Mr. Bateman. But he is a guy that I'm willing to start when there's 6 teams on bye. But I'd go with Higbee.
Interesting, too, because I think everybody thinks, Stafford wants to just pound this Lions team into the ground, revenge. But you're right. It's more kind of a matter of maybe he feels sorry for him. Maybe he only lights him up for 28 instead of 42, like everybody expects. And he kind of has a little soft spot in his heart. Like, man, it's not everybody else's fault, just ownership's fault.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to still destroy them for like 42 points or something, but I don't think he's going to be like fired up or anything or getting angry. So I think that that is going to be a very fun game to watch. But the chat did bring up a good point with this question that if you do need wide receiver depth, obviously Bateman would be the answer. But if it's just like 2 guys in a vacuum, I would rather have Higbee, to be honest with you.
So let's look at, and it's interesting where we are, this spot here going up until lock at 1 o'clock, but also dealing with the afternoon and really the night, if there's anything like this that hangs over for Sunday Night Football. But in that game, pretty much everybody we know who's out is out. Yeah. Darren Waller looks like he is trending towards not playing. So let's look at the obvious. I think first and foremost, Nick, if he goes, especially when, we're talking about season long here, if he goes, is there any concern at all, or do you have to play him no matter what percentage is next to his body?
I would play him 100%. I think the problem with this is the fact that it's at 4 o'clock and there's like 4 o'clock games. So if you don't have him, you have to pivot onto these just terrible options, to be honest with you. But I would definitely play Waller if he plays. I think he's just too good to sit him, right? He's a guy that I would believe even at 80% of Darren Waller is probably still a top 5 tight end. So yeah. I'm definitely going to play him if he plays. And you got to be really holding your breath, though, hoping that he ends up playing. My best guess, though, right now, seems like he's not going to play. But again, you never know in the NFL. Like if he's fine in warmups, then they're obviously going to play him.
It's interesting. The line has moved even lower where we are. I'm sure in Jersey for you, it's similar. The Raiders were 3. They've moved to 2.5. They're now down to 2. And the only thing that's changed outside of maybe somebody bringing you a suitcase to one of the local books between you and I would be news with Darren Waller coming out. The fact that he may not play. And not many non-quarterbacks would move a line. You could argue that he would be good for at least half of a point. So maybe there is some strong belief there from sharp minds, if you will. And they don't get it right all the time, but maybe there is some belief, right, from at least the betting world that, hey, cool off, take the Eagles in that regard, because Waller's out or looks to be trending not to be playing. Something to think about.
It's funny because like when Tua was out, the Dolphins lines didn't move at all. But then when Waller decides to go ahead and not play, or he might not end up playing, then the line moves, which is hilarious. But yeah, I do agree that he's definitely worth at least something because he is the key piece in this offense besides obviously Derek Carr. They obviously have other names like Now, what does this do to the other names? Actually, something I thought about. I'd be much more comfortable starting Ruggs and Hunter Renfrow
yeah.
in the same case where we don't see Waller. But if we see Waller, Renfrow is like a safe option, and Ruggs is just a guy that you're praying up to the fantasy lords that somehow he ends up scoring a touchdown. Because otherwise, with Ruggs, you're going to be quite disappointed.
No, I think you're right. And it opens up more from just a target standpoint for sure. I mean, just looking at Waller, he's the most targeted guy on the team, and it's not even close. Renfrow with 10 less. So that's a gigantic element of it. Here's one thing I'm curious about, and it's, I guess, more of a game flow thing, but you can run on the Eagles. And I wonder if not having your key weapon when it comes to the passing game in Waller opens things up for Jacobs and maybe even Drake to a lesser extent, where just out of force, because the Raiders under Gruden at least didn't really want to run the ball much, Nick, but maybe out of force now they run the ball because they don't have Waller, and that can open up more volume for Jacobs and to a lesser extent Drake.
Yeah, I think they are going to try to run. It seems like they, even with Gruden, they were trying to just run the ball so much with Jacobs when he was healthy, even if it wasn't successful, right? Jacobs seems like he's kind of not falling off the edge of the earth, but he doesn't look like the same back he was last year, at least in my mind. But I'm still comfortable starting Jacobs. Again, we're in a week where there are 6 teams on bye. A lot of these main running backs that everyone loves are on bye. So guys are going to move up the rankings. I definitely feel comfortable starting Jacobs. Kenyon Drake, on the other hand, that is kind of the narrative where this is a high scoring game, in my opinion, where the Eagles and them are just going back and forth, tit for tat. And in that case, then Kenyon Drake will be put more in the game to catch passes. But if this is maybe a more one-sided game or a very close game, maybe where it's lower scoring, I think that it'll be a lot more Jacobs.
You mentioned the 4:00 games right now, and it's unfortunate because time is of the essence. So if Darren Waller is your starter and you're banking on him not playing right now, looking in this afternoon window, as you mentioned, it doesn't really shoot out at all. I wonder if Zach Ertz is available in leagues as a backup for Philadelphia. So I'm just trying to think of somebody that you could stream at that spot. You know, OJ Howard is also playing at 4:00. Brate would probably be the better option, but Howard would probably be more available.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought process. I talked about it a little bit earlier on my stream. I really like Zach Ertz this week, but again, you have to really hope that he scores that touchdown, because I'm not too sure how it works when you're like a tight end getting traded a week ago. Like, is that super important that he was traded a week ago? Like, I would think that he'd be fine to just go out there and go catch the ball. You know, he's been in the league for a while. So I think Zach Ertz would be a guy that I'm pretty comfortable with. Same thing goes with Cameron Brate, OJ Howard. But again, you're just hoping for the touchdown with them. But if they are available, Zach Ertz would definitely be my favorite. He's ranked inside my top 10 this week.
Less Abu on the super. Why should I start TJ Hawk over Ricky Seals-Jones? I don't think you should.
Really? Now, I would say I think you should start TJ Hawkinson.
Okay.
TJ Hawkinson was banged up last week and still played well. He's banged up again this week. It seems like he's just going to be banged up every week at this point. Maybe he's just tired of playing for the Lions or something, and he doesn't want to practice, which, you know, I would want. Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't want to practice as well, but it would be fun in practice, right? Because you're playing against the Lions defense. So you probably have a good day every single day. But yeah, I would lean with TJ Hawkinson. I love Ricky Seals-Jones, though, this week. I think he could easily find his way into the end zone up against in that game up against the Green Bay Packers. So I think TJ Hawkinson, though, would be my lean. He's just a guy that, what if this game, if they're getting blown out, then Jared Goff's going to be throwing this ball 7,000 times. Who else is he going to throw the ball to besides TJ Hawkinson? Swift, obviously, Khalif Raymond, St. Brown. They have a bunch of names out there. But at the end of the day, I'd be much more comfortable starting TJ Hawkinson, because I think TJ Hawkinson's bad day is probably like 7 points, and a bad day for Ricky Seals-Jones might be 1 point, right? 2 points, something like that. So I'd rather lean with TJ Hawkinson, and I would find it very hard to sit him unless you have like some other top tier option.
GZ on the super chat, 0.5 point PPR here in the flex spot. Dallas Goedert, Callaway, or Carter?
That's a great question. Normally I don't play a tight end in my flex, but in this case I probably would. Now, Callaway is a guy that I love this week, but you have to understand the immense risk with Callaway, and it doesn't really have to do anything with Callaway's skill. He's a pretty talented wide receiver, and more has to do with the fact that Jameis Winston is the starting quarterback, right? There's always the chance that Jameis turns into Jameis and there's 7 interceptions in the game. But that same game where there's 7 interceptions, there may also be 7 touchdowns. from Jameis Winston. So you never really know. I think Callaway has immense upside. He's definitely the highest upside option. But I think Dallas Goedert without Zach Ertz, if you just look at his splits with Zach Ertz versus without over the last 2 seasons from 2020 to 2021, you can see a clear increase in fantasy football points. I believe in half PPR with Zach Ertz, he was averaging 3 points less than without Zach Ertz in the lineup. And that's because of an uptick in receptions, targets, yards, touchdowns, all that. So I would expect him to be very involved in the offense this week and going forward. So I would definitely start Dallas Goedert. I understand that's kind of the safer option, right? Maybe you're a little bit crazy and you want to go Callaway, but I'd lean with Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, I mean, it's that specific group of people. I think every now and again you look at why you would roster a second tight end. And you just mentioned Ertz and the trade. There's nobody else. They're not going to throw to this stall guy. I can tell you that. Although he'd probably be a sneaky, like anytime TD bet just because you can get him at plus 3,000. But the reality is that all of those targets, especially down the middle of the field, are now reserved for the Eagles tight end. And as volatile as Jalen Hurts can be, he's not as near volatile, as bad at least, as what you get for Winston. And then no love for Carter. I think that's pretty much, at least in that group, right?
Yeah, in that group, I think Carter's a guy that like I'm fine starting, right? Because it seems like he's actually finally done what I thought he was going to do all season, where he actually eclipses and is past all those other guys on the roster. But then again, you think about it, you're like, oh shit, he's on the Jets. How much do I want to start the Jets running back against the Patriots? Not that much. So in that question, no, I'm not looking towards Carter.
Fair enough, my friend. All right, let's keep it moving here. A couple of injuries mentioned, of course, Darren Waller trending towards being out. How about up in New England, a healthy scratch for Ramondre Stevenson? A little surprise on that one?
Yeah, a little surprised, I would say. Very surprised. But then you think that it's Bill Belichick, and you shouldn't be surprised at all, because that's what Bill Belichick does, if I'm being honest with you. So I think that this gives me an even bigger confidence in Mr. Damian Harris. Damian Harris is a guy that went beast mode up against the Jets earlier on in the season. He had a beast quake run. There was literally like 7 guys trying to tackle him. He ran through all of them. The Jets defense isn't that great up against, they're not that good against the pass. Against the run, they're actually pretty solid. But I wouldn't be surprised if Damian Harris has a huge game. That does suck for Ramondre Stevenson, who I thought that if the case was that Damian Harris had to sit, he would have been very valuable for fantasy football, but I think he's obviously going to play. So Stevenson's a guy that I think is very talented, but it does obviously, I don't know what you want to do with him. Like if I had Stevenson, I'd probably just cut him at this point, because it seems like when Harris is good to go and 100% healthy, that they don't want anything to do with Stevenson.
Yeah, I mean, that raises the interesting element of what to do now, but also with the body himself in Stevenson moving forward. If you're a healthy scratch right now in the situation of a guy above you just dealing with injury, who's made a share of mistakes of his own, mind you, and it still hasn't had that impact on Harris, there really, I don't know what upside or how bright of an upside you have with Stevenson. And then you're just really counting on it being a small little window that maybe on a bye week, you have to start him 3 or 4 weeks from now, and you get shit ass lucky because he had, 2 big breakaway runs or something like that. It's not designed. It's not planned. So I like what you're saying as far as get rid of him. Does this do anything? And it's really, you mentioned Harris, and that's clearly the main benefactor on the ground. But what about in the air? And I don't think it's going to impact the receiver position so much, but I don't know if maybe they throw a little more, a little shorter, especially using the 12 personnel when you have a couple of different guys you can throw to at the tight end spot. Does this do anything at all for you outside of just, oh yeah, Damian Harris is clearly the man here, and you probably should get rid of Stevenson?
Yeah, I think that what that does show us is, like you were saying, maybe a lot more 12 personnel in this game with Janu and Hunter Henry in the game at the same time. I think this obviously gives a slight uptick to whichever running back's going to be behind Damian Harris. And it does maybe mean that, hey, they are fully confident in Damian Harris's pass catching ability. We saw last year, the guy had like 7 catches on the season. He easily has eclipsed that already through 7 games of the season thus far, or 6 games of the season. We're on week number 7 now. So I think Damian Harris is a guy that you should feel very comfortable with. But outside of that, I mean, again, like you said, I think this does help out Hunter Henry. I'm more just hoping that this helps out Jacoby Myers, because he's just allergic to scoring touchdowns. And when he does, the refs just say that's illegal. He can't be doing that.
All right, a couple of other injuries to hit on, but Joseph on the super chat. Again, we appreciate all the super chats here. Definitely not necessary, but moves you right to the front of the line here. Joseph, 1 PPR. All right, flex, Eli, Dallas, or Ricky Seals-Jones.
Oh, man. I would probably go with Dallas.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. That's tough. Who else? I'm almost curious to see who else he has, right?
Yeah, that's
a
tough
really
scene.
bad spot to be in, man. Like you have to go Goddard, I think, right?
Yeah, it's not even that. It's definitely because of the bye weeks, right? I'm seeing teams where their whole bench is on bye. Like I've gotten sent screenshots of that. So that's how you know that things are really bad right now. I would go with Goddard. I don't even think Goddard's that bad of a start because like we were saying with Zach Ertz being gone, the upside is just so much bigger now with Dallas Goddard that I'm definitely perfectly fine playing Goddard.
Yeah, you're right. Buys have definitely hurt. I mean, I understand it too. Injuries as well. I mean, I've got basically my entire bench out there as well. You know, Mike Williams, Kirk Cousins, these guys being on bye can impact as well. The trickle down effect all around. All right, let's look at this. And I saw a questioner 5 about Darius Slayton, who appears to be the only healthy wide receiver on the New York Giants today. At least the only trustable guy you can go with, right?
Trustable with a huge one of these. What are those called? Like what are those
parentheses?
called? Parentheses, quotation. I don't even know what the. I go
quotes,
to college.
quotes.
I don't know what they're called. Quotation marks, like a huge wink next to that.
Reliable.
Yes. Wink, wink. Very reliable, Darius Slayton. But yeah, he is. And then they have what do they have? John Ross. Like I guess Slayton would be the most reliable, but
yeah.
Like, do you really want to be starting Giants wide receivers? But yeah, I do think that if you are just full on down tremendous, I mean, Slayton was a guy that showed off a lot of talent last year. He dropped a costly touchdown up against the football team earlier this season. He's a guy that I think he's fast, right? That's good. But besides that, he's not a guy that I'm overly attached to. But what you are saying, though, is that his upside this week is the highest it'll ever be. There is not another week where Galladay, likely there's probably no other week where Galladay, Shepard, and Tony are all out. So, yeah, if there was ever a week to fire him up, it would be this week. And I think he does have a lot of upside. It's just the risk there is immense when you also have a quarterback like Daniel Jones, who may not be able to hit the guy who is 7,000 yards down the field wide open. You know, maybe Daniel Jones just misses him.
You know, what's interesting for me, too, on this whole thing is Barkley's out as well. So, if anything, again, I just don't try to look at stuff due to circumstance where Judge doesn't want to come in giving Devontae Booker 25 touches in this game, but out of circumstance, that may impact Booker more than it even impacts Slayton, as crazy as it is. All these guys being out may force Booker to get the ball a little bit more than normal simply because you don't have as many guys to throw to. Again, I don't think it does anything for anybody below Slayton on the depth chart, but
yeah,
at the same time, it's either Booker or Slayton are going to benefit from this, if anybody, right?
Yeah, I think your point about Booker is actually really good because I think that Booker last week probably would have been great if Daniel Jones, what did he throw, 4 picks last week? 4 interceptions, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Might have been 4, something like that. I mean, the other defense, the Rams defense absolutely dominated in fantasy football because of that. I would be, unless he throws 4 picks again, which is entirely possible, it is Daniel Jones, then Devontae Booker should have a huge showing this week, even if they aren't just running
3,
the ball because it was 3.
Let's not short him. Yeah, 3. I thought it was 4 too. Sacked 4, 3 though picks.
Oh, okay. Sacked 4
times. It felt
that
like 4. You're right. But
yeah, it was a blowout from their case. But yeah, I think that with that happening, that if that doesn't end up happening, right, where he doesn't throw a million interceptions, then I think Devontae Booker will be much more involved because maybe they don't just have to air it down the field a bunch. And it just goes to show how bad this wide receiver core is for the Giants, that Kadarius Toney was the leader in receiving yards on the team for like a majority of the game, and he only played 7 snaps right at the beginning of the game, and then he got hurt. So that just goes to really show how bad things are in New York right now.
No, it's true. And you try to take advantage of a bad, shitty situation, and it's not always there. Sometimes it's just wide open value. We saw that with volume and Brandon Cooks and all, but even with a quarterback switch, it's just not always there. So if there's no need to force it, right, don't.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, hit that link below this video, and it's going to bring you to Yahoo. Don't worry, this video will still stay up. You can do this simultaneously. And when you sign up with your first deposit and paid contest entry, we're going to give you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Just hit that thumbs up button, please. Make sure you're subscribed here as we continue to grow and build on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. 44 MSU 44. All right, let's do this. Pick 2 here in a PPR. Actually, let's just do 1 for everybody out there, and then we'll answer. It's a 2-part question. So let's get 1 in here on the PPR, both for these groups of guys. Swift, Mixon, or Patterson? Let's start there. Pick 1.
Okay. Pick 1. I would play Patterson.
Okay.
That might sound crazy. It might, but at this point in the season, you have to play Patterson. The Dolphins' defense is so fucking bad.
No.
So bad. And against the run, Patterson is literally going to... I don't even want to imagine what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen.
No, I don't hate that pick. The one, here's where I'll push back. Not that I agree with going with Mixon, but I'm just curious as to why. Swift, I feel like I don't want to play Swift in any game unless I have to, right? Like, unless
that's the thing.
Yeah, sorry.
So I was going to say that's the thing with Swift is you never want to play him, but he always does good.
Yeah, and I get it. I just don't physically want to start every week with like, yes, I'm rostering Swift. It's almost like, okay, kind of have to reluctantly. But you're right. He bites me in the ass if that's the case.
Yeah, because the thing with him is that he just gets so many dump offs every single game. Like he doesn't even matter how much he runs the ball at all. It just doesn't even go into the equation. But I'm definitely leaning Patterson, like by a mile. I love Cordero Patterson this week.
Why Mixon, though? Why fade Mixon with Patterson? And maybe it's more with Patterson, who has just been unstoppable at times and has been a top 5, I think, running back week in and week out, at least for a stretch. So, or at least top 10. Why fade Mixon? Is it the matchup? I mean, the fact that they're on the road, Ravens defense, anything jump out as far as anti-Mixon, or is it just Patterson ranked higher?
Yeah, it's more of just that it's not anything anti-Mixon. It's just more of the fact that I know what's going to happen. I know what Cordero Patterson's going to do. I know how good he is. I mean, he had a bye last week, and he's still a top 10 running back in half PPR. So he's just such a weapon on that team. Like, they clearly didn't need Julio Jones. They just needed Cordero Patterson there. So I don't know. It's hard to fade Mixon as well because I think Mixon could have a huge showing this week, even though the Baltimore Ravens defense looked really good last week up against the Chargers. I'm not sure the same thing happens up against the Bengals, but I would still lean Cordero Patterson very heavily. I have Patterson ranked as I think he's my number 4 running back on the week.
Who do you have ranked higher this week, Hollywood or Woods? That's the second part of our super chat. And I'm curious, mainly because I imagine you have Brown ranked higher than weeks prior, but I don't know where you have Woods this week.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I have Woods ranked higher, but I think that the upside of Hollywood is so high. Like, he could literally be the number 1 receiver any given week. The risk, though, is that he drops that touchdown like it seems like he does all the time, right? That's the risk. But the upside is just immense that they are laying it down in that game. He catches, all you really need for Hollywood Brown is 4 catches, and he has 2 touchdowns and 150 yards. Like, that's entirely possible. So I would go ahead and play Robert Woods, but it's very close between the two. And I think a lot of people are nervous about Hollywood Brown, whereas I would tell you not to be very nervous at all.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't think I'm nervous so much as like you almost anticipate that kick in the gut is coming at some point. And it's just like, you don't like to be kicked in the gut, but you like everything else that comes with it. It's like, here, keep giving you money, and then random kick in the gut. I do look, though, at this game, and it goes back to Robert Woods because we talked about it on the other end of it. 16.5-point spread. The expectation is the Rams are just going to absolutely hammer Detroit. So it's really one of 2 scenarios here, right? Either the Rams come out and do exactly what we think they're going to do and just torch Detroit, and then the Lions come back or try to come back, at least throw the football, etc. Rams are just trying to get out of there, run the clock out. But for the most part, they've done their damage. The window for anybody to really accomplish anything as a starter is much more narrow, right? Because you basically have a first half, and then they're not going to throw bombs to Robert Woods when they're up by 30 points. But the other side of that I think this could be is the whole contrarian element of it, where everybody thinks it's going to be a blowout, and then, all of a sudden, the Rams are sluggish. The Rams are slow. What the hell? We're looking at this game. It's 10-3. going into the half, like we saw at that Rams-Giants game where it just took
Yeah.
forever for the Rams. I don't know if Robert Woods, outside of catching maybe that lone touchdown, is going to be this huge contributor in there as well. So I get what you're saying, where it's boom bust, which is a much higher propensity to boom for Hollywood, and that window is a little bit wider for Hollywood. Therefore, take the risk.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as well. The one guy that is kind of like that as well, in my opinion, is Miles Sanders. He's a guy that hasn't gotten the ball at all this year. And I'm playing him in DFS this week, and I'm regretting it immensely. Just looking at my lineups, I absolutely hate it. But I do understand that Nick Sirianni Nick Sirianni, however you pronounce his name, the Italian man, if he doesn't just give the ball to Miles Sanders, like, he's going to get fired. Like, he's going to get fired because you can't just run the ball one time in the fucking first half of the game. You cannot do that. That's not how you win a football game. I don't know who's going to get shipped out of there first, if it's going to be him or Ben Simmons at this point. Seems like it's probably going to be him. Because Ben Simmons seems like he's going nowhere.
I don't think Simmons is going. Well, look, I think Simmons is locked in longer than Sirianni at this point, especially if the Eagles trade for a quarterback at the end of the year. All right, let me ask you this then. I'll pit one of your guys versus one of my guys. Okay. And I can't even believe I'm asking this question, but if you look at projections, they're pretty similar as far as what they could get you. So in the flex spot, Myles Gaskin or Quez Watkins?
Oh, I'd rather play Quez Watkins.
Is that your personal bias coming out?
And I think Quez Watkins might literally score 0 points, but I think Gaskin might as well. I mean, what have the Dolphins shown us this year? They've shown us that against the Bucs, we can throw the ball to Gaskin. It's successful. I understand we lose the game, but it works, right? He does good. Then the next week, we play the Jaguars, a team that hasn't won a game in 19 weeks or 20 weeks or something like that. And then we just don't run the ball. We give it to Salvin Ahmed. We give the ball to Malcolm Brown. Doesn't mean anything to me. It's disrespectful to everyone who drafted Myles Gaskin and disrespectful to the fans who have to watch this every single week that it happens. So in my opinion, I think Gaskin's obviously the safer play. Clearly, right? Probably safer, but I think Quez Watkins could easily score 10, 12 points. Watkins looks like really good. I don't know what's happening with the Eagles. Like, why is Rager getting the ball more than him? I feel like Watkins is better than Rager.
It's your coach, man. Sirianni, your guy. I don't know. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
He has no idea.
Throw the ball to Quez Watkins down the field every single time.
Yeah.
All right.
Quez Watkins looks like a monster.
Yeah. Instead, he's throwing to guys who are stepping out of bounds and coming back in. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. All right. As we continue to hit the chat here in a second, just looking at any other, speaking of which, Devontae Parker, your guy, again, I feel like this has now become a broken record. Any update as far as what you can do? It's clearly not going to be pivoting to Myles Gaskin on that team. So
yeah,
is it just all Waddle all the time now?
Yeah, it's all Waddle until and Gesicki. Gesicki might out-target Waddle. Waddle's a monster. Gesicki's a monster. The rest of these guys are they're embarrassments. But I think Devontae Parker is a guy that he's probably played his last year in Miami. I think he's gone after this, but I think that Devontae Parker being out doesn't even really affect my opinion because it's like Devontae Parker's out all the time. The guy's just not very good.
All right, let's start hitting a couple of these up. Elijah Mitchell or J.D. McKissick from the chat. RB2 full PPR.
All right, my lean would be to play. Well, see, my rankings tell you to play Mr. Eli Mitchell, but I understand the risk with Mitchell. And J.D. McKissick is going to go, as is Antonio Gibson, but Gibson's dealing with the shin injury, and the shin injury took him out last week of the game, put him back in the game, took him out, put him back in the game. They were just rotating him in and out. I think that Gibson, he's going to play. I would play J.D. McKissick, but I do have Elijah Mitchell ranked higher because of the fact that I think the situation's a little more clear for Mitchell. But I think the upside for McKissick is that he does see 10 targets in this game and does play very well.
Yeah, see, I have Gibson, pardon me, in my season long, and I drafted him high. He's one of my starting running backs, he and Chubb. So, I'm dealing with him out and then Gibson kind of banged up. But I have to play Gibson. There's no ifs, ands about that. My concern is always how much McKissick is now involved. And with Gibson playing through the shin injury that he himself offered up, remember, a couple of weeks ago, it does sound like, as you answer that question, that this would be a good week for McKissick to take over a lot more of the game share.
Yeah, I think he will. I mean, we saw last week he was very involved in the offense, and I think that we continue to see that. I mean, all of last year, the guy had 100 plus targets. I think it was 110 plus targets on the season. And then this year was kind of up and down every single week. You never knew what to do with McKissick. But I think going forward now, if I don't know why Riverboat Ron doesn't just sit down Gibson, like what's the harm in sitting him for 1 week and letting him heal instead of just constantly getting his shin pounded in by defenses? Doesn't make too much sense, but that's what they're doing. So.
That's a good point. And look, selfishly, I don't want him to sit, but realistically, if it means that he's somewhat healthier 2 weeks from now to sit out, now maybe they look at this and think, you're on the road, Green Bay, you're going to get your ass kicked either way. This would be a good time to do it. But yeah, Ron Rivera is hesitant to say the least. Now, to be fair, the team never even offered this up. So maybe they're still pissed off that Gibson mentioned that he himself was playing through the shin injury. They're like, yo, what are you doing? We want you out there.
So, yeah, it's weird. It's weird because, sorry for talking over you, but it's very weird because they say he's hurt and then they show him in practice. And the guy, I don't even know what the drill is called. I never played football, but where they're jumping over that, like, I don't even know what it's called, but he's like moving his legs really fast. He looks perfectly fine. And then during the game, he just always re-aggravates his injury. Why not just let him sit out of practice and just miss 1 week? Like, I really don't understand the thought process when Gibson is one of 2 good players on your offense, besides like Terry McLaurin and him. So why are you going to risk that on such a young player? I don't get it.
Is there any concern for Gibson? I have to start Gibson because, again, my other running back is Nick Chubb, and then everybody else outside of Myles Gaskin is on a bye. So I'm really screwed over a barrel when it comes to who I have to roll with. But if you have a team where there's some luxury and you maybe have a pivot or two, where do you have Gibson ranked? Because it's not the worst matchup by any means against that Packers defense. But at the same time, we saw last week only 10 touches really for the 40 yards, 44 yards, right? He didn't score. Week before, he gets 60 yards, but at least he has those 2 touchdowns to kind of help mitigate the damage on the ground. If you have, and I don't know what you would even consider a healthy pivot for Gibson, but if you have the ability to pivot away from Gibson, would you do that?
Depending on the pivot, to be honest, because I think that Gibson, you could still rely on him this week. He's not a guy that I'm going to be super excited about being a top 10 running back, right? Being a top 5 guy. But he's a guy I could easily see being serviceable. Like you roll him out there and you're not pissed that you started him, right? Because he's still going to be getting the ball. The question is, how much does this impact him? Like, is he going to go in and then out, in and out repeatedly? Or is he going to be in for a while and then maybe they just lay him down at the end of the game? You never really know, to be honest with you. I would still be fine playing him, but I'm a lot more comfortable starting JD McKissick. If you had McKissick and Gibson, I'd probably play McKissick.
Now we have a super chat here from Crescent Cannon. It's 1:26 in the morning in Japan right now. And Crescent, hello from Fusa, Japan, in a tight spot. Should he start either Fournette or D. Williams? Running back 1 is Derrick Henry, by the way. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being up in the middle of the night. I guess that's business as usual, though, to catch games when they start.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine waking up at 1 a.m. to listen to me talk, but, that's just me. But at the end of the day, I do appreciate that. That's awesome to hear. It's so crazy. I think I talked about this last week. Someone donated, and I think they lived in like Australia or something. I was like, that's just crazy, right? That's how amazing, like worldwide the game is. But yeah, so my lean would be, maybe it was England. My lean would be to go with Leonard Fournette. I love Uncle Lenny in this game. He was part of the question, right? It was Leonard Fournette or Damian Williams, correct? Okay. Just don't want to get it wrong.
Darrell, yeah.
Oh, Darrell Williams. Oh, fudge. I just censored myself. I would go with Darrell Williams over Leonard Fournette. I love Darrell Williams. I love this Chiefs offense. If you look at the stats, it's actually hilarious. Clyde Edwards-Helaire in every game of his rookie year and this year, Darrell Williams in 1 game outscored his best game in half PPR. So that just goes to show you. No, I'm not even kidding. I retweeted it when I saw someone tweet it out, and I put it in all my articles that I was writing about it. Like, it's literally hilarious.
Yeah.
If you look at it, like, wow, it just shows how good Darrell Williams is, and it shows that they have confidence pivoting from Williams or from CH to Williams. I love Leonard Fournette in this game, and I really do, but I will talk you into going Williams because I think that Darrell Williams has serious upside up against the Tennessee Titans. The Titans defense they didn't get ran on by the Bills by the Bills running backs, right? Because Zach Moss and Singletary weren't doing all the work. It was Josh Allen. This week, you don't expect Patrick Mahomes to go out there and try to hurdle a guy like Josh Allen, right? So my lean would be to go with Darrell Williams. It is Darrell Williams. It is very close. Very, very close, but I would go with Williams.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm with you. I would too. The Titans defense is sneaky decent against the run, but man, they're freaking god awful. They're Chiefs bad against the pass. Speaking of Tennessee, though, we talked about this on Friday's show. Yourself, me, Matt Savoca here talking about the mystery meat that AJ Brown ingested. And it looks like it was Chipotle was the culprit, right?
Yeah. And you know what? I'm still going to eat Chipotle, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, look, it's a one. I mean, you're eating something that's mass produced for the public. The chances of you getting sick are very, very slim. Yeah. So, and the reward is that you get to eat Chipotle. So
exactly.
Don't censor yourself.
It's a risk I'm willing to take.
Thank you. Now, what do you do here with this wide receiver crew? AJ Brown can't move. His stomach is all knotted up. Julio Jones is suiting up today with that hamstring, but man, one just flick of somebody's finger and that dude could be out for 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm playing AJ Brown and I'm playing Julio Jones. That's just my lean on it. I think AJ Brown, even when this defense, even when the guy's like halfway to the bathroom, I still think he's going to ball out up against the Chiefs. I mean, last week we saw his best game, and that was his best game of the year, I think.
Yeah,
and he was sick. I think he's still sick. He'll be fine. I mean, the Chiefs defense is just that bad, and I understand people be like, "Oh, the Washington football team, they didn't play that great." Again, that's the fucking Washington football team. We're talking about the Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry, with all of these guys. You have to play, in my opinion, AJ Brown. And I'm committing a full fade this week to Derrick Henry, and it's going to be one of the biggest mistakes I ever make. And I already know it.
Full fade?
Full fade.
So you have zero exposure in your mass entered DFS lineups? Is that what you're telling us? You're not
zero
rolling
exposure. Zero exposure.
Get out of here. Yeah. I need to see a screenshot of that before I buy into that shit.
Yeah, I'm being 100% serious.
You're not even touching him?
No, and you obviously should. That's the thing, is you obviously should, so you got to fade him.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I could see like one of 150.
Oh, I don't play 150. That's a little bit crazy, right? That's a little bit crazy. Maybe I should lock him in. Maybe I should play one lineup with him. I don't know, though. It just seems like AJ.
One in.
Yeah, I might have to. I love Derrick Henry.
I could see this being, look, it's the highest total that we've had all year. So I could see it by all means. 57.5. We haven't had a total higher than this all season.
Yeah. The biggest issue with Derrick Henry in DFS is when you play him, you have to start like Kadarius Hodge as one of your wide receivers, and that's how you know things are bad.
Right. That's a good point. But as far as the Titans are concerned, there really isn't anything other than that, where both of these guys are healthy. You're back to normal. Everybody's in play right now. And if anything, I would think, like if you were relying on Fursker or somebody like that, right? That's probably somebody who now gets banged up from opportunity because of the two receivers coming back. I'm just thinking if there's anybody at all that got impacted on that team. But outside of the tight end position, Henry's locked in, quarterback Tannehill's locked in, and the two receivers are back as a whole, as a unit, so they're locked in as well.
Yeah, I think so. I just think that for the Titans, you just have to throw everyone out there. But did you say you wanted to start any of the tight ends? Because I don't think I would ever want to start any of those guys.
No, that's what I'm saying, is that if anybody was in a shitty spot where you had to run Fursker or somebody like that as your tight end, you're probably even more screwed now.
Yeah, I mean, you're so screwed if you have to play that guy. I mean, who's the other tight end on the team? Because I think he was the one who saw the targets last week.
More targets. What's his name? Pruitt?
Maybe. Nope. That's a lie.
Swain?
I think it was, is Swain? Oh man, we're so stupid. It was Swain with, what's his name? Is he on the Seahawks?
You're thinking of Freddie Swain versus Jeff
Swain. Okay. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. That's just a lapse in judgment there. Yeah. I don't know. I don't trust Fursker. I don't trust any of those guys.
Don't trust any of these guys. Look, if you're back-ended into having to play one of these guys, then you're screwed as is. You might as well just sit. You might as well preemptively tell everybody in your league so they don't think you forgot and just said, look, I'm not playing a guy this week. Like I'm
Yeah,
sitting the
just
tight end
play
position.
just play Darren Waller in solidarity to your team because he might be better not even playing. Like he might somehow catch the ball.
Randy on the chat. Devontae Smith or Marquez Callaway PPR in the flex spot?
I would play Smith, but I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't know what is happening with the Eagles. It seems like Smith should be really good.
Yeah. Sorry. I was thinking of somebody else. You're right.
It's Devontae Smith, right?
Yeah, that's my fault. I'm an idiot.
Okay. No, we already knew that, you know?
Well, that's true. I remind new people that just pop in from your stream thinking, why? Okay, this guy's an idiot. At least I know. Yes, Devontae Smith or Marquez Callaway. Sorry. I don't know why I thought it was Freeman.
Yeah, no, Devontae Freeman's a guy. I'm surprised we haven't gotten any questions on him because of Latavius, but
yeah, we'll talk about him actually coming up in a sec. That's a good point to raise. See, I knew there was a reason why Devontae Freeman was relevant on my brain. But yes, the question for you, Nick, Devontae Smith or Marquez Callaway?
Yeah, I would go with Devontae Smith, and I don't love it. I like Callaway, and I don't love Callaway. The thing is, I like both of these guys because I see the upside, but you can also talk yourself into the narrative where it's like, wow, what if the Saints just don't throw the ball 4 times to Callaway? Maybe he doesn't score then if he doesn't get the ball 4 times. And then, what happens if Devontae Smith doesn't get the ball because they're throwing to Jalen Reagor for some unbeknownst reason that guy can't even catch the football and they're throwing it to him? Or maybe they actually commit to the run, and I don't even know what would happen if they commit to the run. Like the earth would turn good or something like that. But I don't know. I would go ahead and play Devontae Smith. I think that Devontae Smith has a lot of upside in this game. I think there's going to be a close game up against the Raiders, and I fully expect the Eagles to win this game. So
I have him +3. I saw that earlier in the chat. People asking if they can cover. It's down to 2. So if you didn't get in at 3, my suggestion would be just to buy the point. You're on the road. The key number 3 is so relevant. Why even tempt fate, right?
Yeah, I would just rather buy the point. That's how I am in a lot of scenarios, especially when it's like 2.5. I'd rather just buy the half a point and eat the juice there.
So you mentioned Gesicki, and then also what's going on with Darren Waller. Josh on the chat asking which of the two, and I'm going to put this in a position now where you have to make this choice, as Josh does, before 1 o'clock, right? So we don't have the option of waiting to see what goes on with Waller. You're making this decision now to either wait and start Waller, who may not play, or jump into your guy now.
Okay. Who is the other option besides Waller?
Your tight end.
My tight end. Oh, I'm playing Gesicki. And I honestly wouldn't even think twice. I think that Gesicki is going to see probably 8, 9, 10 targets in this game. I think if there's any way we beat the Falcons, which I don't expect, that we use Gesicki a lot. I think Gesicki is going to be a target monster on this team, especially without Devontae Parker, because while I don't think Devontae Parker is very good, I like to make a lot of jokes about that, he's still involved. He's still on the team. Still a guy that's going to be getting the football. So I think that with Gesicki, I feel very confident in him. And I'd rather just roll him out because you're going to be so pissed off if Waller doesn't play that I'd rather just take the slight reduction in points with Gesicki over just hoping that Waller somehow plays.
So there's an interesting question on the chat from Christian. Maxed out on running backs, have to drop one. He's got Damian Williams, Collins, Dearness, who can't be dropped, so put him on the side, although you at least know he's on the team. Mike Davis, specifically for week 8.
Ooh, specifically for week 8. I would probably, there's no way I'm dropping Mike Davis. Like you said, you can't drop Dearness Johnson.
You're not dropping Davis as high as you are on Patterson?
No, because again, the Dolphins defense is that bad. And I think Mike Davis is still going to be involved. Oh, man. I'd probably drop Collins. He was
Wait, no, this is for next week. Because we're in week 7 now.
It's for next week. Okay. Now my brain, I'd drop Collins because I think that Carson's coming back very soon.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, that got me too, specifically for week 8. Right.
Okay. Yeah. We're not very good at math here, apparently.
No, that's fine. All right. I love these. Pick 3, and then there's 15 names. Let's just do this. How about you pick 1, and then we'll whittle it down to picking 1 from there. Kupp, Lockett, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. So 1's got to go. How about that? 1's got to go. Let's take 1 out of that, and then you can pick 1 of the 3 remaining. So cut the weakest option of Kupp, Lockett, who I think actually has some really sneaky value this week, Tyler Lockett, A.J. Brown, or Devontae Smith.
Cup, Lockett, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. I would not want to play Lockett.
Really? Of all these guys, see, I would go Lockett over Devontae.
See, the problem is that Geno Smith just stinks.
He does.
He's so bad. And what Lockett's value just comes from the fact that Russ can hit some deep strike down the field and correct anything that's bad in that game. It's like Deontay Wilder's right hand or whatever, where he can just correct everything, the ultimate corrector. That is what it is for the Seahawks, that you can just randomly hit this guy deep down the field and he scores a touchdown. And can that happen with Geno Smith? Do you think so? Because I don't think so. So
here's the thing.
I'm nervous.
I don't think they're going to take a lot of chances with Tyler Lockett. I don't think that it's going to be super downfield, but you have a full week to prepare to get the ball in your hands. And look, I think it's easier, not to say that he's a better receiver or a better athlete even than Metcalf, but I think it's easier to game plan with Lockett. He's going to have a lot of one-on-one opportunities. Look, all I need is Geno Smith to make like a 10-yard pass. That's really it consistently, 10 and in consistently. I don't think there's going to be many bombs. I don't think they're going to go downfield. And I expect that coming in. But I also feel and this is it, Nick, from a volume standpoint, as crazy as it is, and as worse of a quarterback as Geno is to Jalen Hurts so far, at least, I feel like Tyler Lockett's going to get looked at way more than Devontae Smith could disappear. As much as I'll be throwing shit at the TV, I've seen that already happen where it's like, where are you, dude? Get him involved.
All right. You're definitely right on that, though. It is entirely possible, but it's also possible that Lockett disappears because Geno just throws to DK, or they're looking to run the ball a lot with Alex Collins to try to keep the game close, because this is not a game that realistically I expect to be some type of a blowout, right? In the Seattle game, I wouldn't expect that to be a blowout.
No, you're right. I think it's a risk for Lockett and even to a lesser extent for Devontae. So let's take Lockett out of this. Now pick one. Kupp, AJ Brown, or Devontae Smith?
I would take out Devontae Smith.
No, pick one that you'd start. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, you're playing. It's Cooper Kupp, right? Was the first part?
Yep.
I'm playing Cooper Kupp. There's no way you could sit Cooper Kupp any week. This guy is a monster. And it's crazy because he did kind of fizzle out that one game when they fully committed to Robert Woods. But then after that, they're still committed to Robert Woods, but they're still throwing to Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp every single week is just so good. And there is no way you can sit him. I didn't expect this at all. And I'll tell you that I was completely wrong on Cooper Kupp. I thought Robert Woods was the clear guy there. Very wrong on that. It's clearly Cooper Kupp, and I love Cooper Kupp. So play him every week.
Yeah, you have to, man. I'm with you too. He is my rock each and every week that I know, even on a down week, I can count on. Couple of others. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, yeah, exactly. Even if your team is on so many bye weeks, that's a guy that can just score 40 points, 30 points like it's nothing against the Lions, especially. Like, you have to project that he's getting at least 20 plus points. And I would think it could go a lot higher than that.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, he's got a chance to score at least 2, if not 3 touchdowns. And this thing gets going and they start pulling away from Detroit, no matter how early or late, even in the game. You know that from a receptions monster to a scoring machine, he can be both.
Exactly.
No, you got to go Kupp.
You have to go Kupp every week. This week, next week, the week after that. Even when he's on bye, might want to play him.
All right, Stu on the chat. Now Devontae Freeman making his first appearance here. Julio Jones or Devontae Freeman?
Julio Jones or Devontae Freeman. I would play Julio Jones. Again, I like Devontae Freeman. I like him without Latavius Murray. But how much do you like him? Because you understand that Tyson Williams is going to get touches. You understand that Le'Veon Bell is going to get touches. It is a shit show back there every single week. And yeah, I would tell you that Devontae Freeman would be my favorite lean, but not my favorite out of those two. I'd definitely rather play Julio Jones, who, while you could just, like I think you said earlier, you could literally flick the guy and he'll be out of the game. But at the end of the day, I'm still playing Julio Jones.
So what happens now with this whole situation with Devontae Freeman? You mentioned Latavius Murray. Is there anything other than just heavy emphasis on Devontae? And again, it's one thing to pivot or to place him, I should say, against Julio Jones, but just looking at Devontae overall and this Ravens backfield.
Yeah, I think that looking at him overall, you have to just understand that there's so much just change week in and week out. And Lamar Jackson might be the only one who scores the touchdown, right? So you never really know. You never really know. And that's why I'm fine starting Latavius, because normally not Latavius. That's why I'm fine starting Devontae Freeman, because we're in a week where there's so many players on bye. There's so many injuries to all of these big players that you just have to take shots on guys like that. So I'm fine playing them. I think the outlook on the season when Latavius returns, there's no way to know. There really is no way to know. I think Latavius moves back up to the top. But again, this is one of those situations. It's a lot like the 49ers, where me and you could debate back and forth about any of these guys. And 8 weeks from now, one of us may be completely right that randomly Kyle Juszczyk is the best running back, and he's a fullback for the 49ers. So that's just really how confusing things are here. It switches so much week in and week out that I feel like you can't have one strong push either way. And then with Watkins out, I like Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews to see more work. But again, what did you really expect out of Rashad Bateman? Like, he's the cheap play on DK that a lot of people are going to talk themselves into. Wouldn't be surprised if he had like 4 points, to be honest.
Right. It does set up to be one of those games, right, where the entire public is on one guy, the cheap option, and he's out there for 2 targets, catches 1, drops 3 or 2, I guess would be the math, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
All right. This is a rough one here. Mr. A has a tough situation, to say the least, on the chat. And real quick, hit that link below before you hit that thumbs up button, or after you hit that thumbs up button. Either one is fine with us, so long as you hit that thumbs up button. Click on that link below the video. It's going to take you to Yahoo. You'll be up and running. This video won't close. Don't worry. You can continue to watch, listen to whatever we have to say. But when you sign up for Yahoo and your first paid contest entry on top of that, we're going to give you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. It's an insane deal, insane value that you're going to get free for a month. You can put Awesemo Plus Platinum to work on anything that you can play, from a DFS season long, whatever you have, projections, we're ready for you. So take advantage of that. Click on that link below. This is the rough spot, and it's bye week, it's injuries. This is all like the perfect storm right now for Mr. A. Down bad. Rashad Penny, Gainwell, Le'Veon, or Herbert.
Oh, man. I'd play Le'Veon Bell, and that is down bad to the maximum, to the second squared, or however math works like that, where you got the 2 above there. Learned that in algebra in high school. Yeah, that's how bad it is. Like, I would play Le'Veon Bell, and you just got to hope he finds the end zone. Other than that, like, how can you really feel comfortable starting any of those guys? Let's be honest. This is tough. Like, Rashad Penny.
I can't even think about starting Rashad Penny, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather start a bye, an open slot at this point.
There's no way I'm playing Rashad Penny. I'll tell you that.
Herbert, I mean,
Herbert now with Damian Williams, there's no way you can play him. So
here's the thing about Gainwell. You mentioned it with Sanders. For whatever reason, all right, so I'm a little more inclined to have this conversation. Like, let's take Penny and Herbert out of this. Kenneth Gainwell doesn't get the ball, but nobody above him gets the ball either. And Gainwell's out there. He is targeted at least and gets some touches in the 2-minute drill. And assuming that the Eagles are in the red zone before Jalen Hurts runs over and vultures away touchdowns, Gainwell, he's involved in the game plan is what I'm saying, Nick, is that as little as it may seem, the problem is that his coach doesn't involve running backs in a game plan, and this is why it swings back and forth, but he's equally involved as the starter. You can't make that argument with anybody else except Bell. At least, as a coach, that's going to be, I don't know. I'm talking myself out of it right now, but I don't think I think it's a little closer between Le'Veon and Gainwell compared to the other 2 guys.
Yeah, I would agree. But again, like, who knows what Nick Sirianni is going to do? Like, who really knows? Like, is he going to give the ball to Gainwell? It worked pretty successfully early on the season when they were giving the ball to Gainwell, and then they kind of fade away from it. Then maybe they'll be back to it. You never really know with Gainwell. You don't know with Le'Veon Bell, but I'd rather take the guy on a team that I expect to score a bunch. Like, I expect the Ravens to put up a bunch of points. And in that case, there's a good chance Bell scores. I mean, he scored last week, so.
Quarterback question. Miguel on the chat. Oof, look at this group. Geno, Zach Wilson, Jimmy G, or Goff.
Geno, Zach Wilson, Jimmy G.
Let me take one off the board right away for you, and that's Jimmy G, because it's supposed to be pouring all game tonight out in San Fran for that football game against the Colts. So it's supposed to be wet, saturated, heavy football. Do you really want to trust Jimmy G without George Kittle and a mangled backfield in the sun, Nick, let alone in the pouring rain?
No, you don't want to trust that at all. And I wouldn't play Geno either. I think I would just, oh man,
it's
I
got to be
don't.
Goff, doesn't it? Just simply because he could probably throw for 50 times today.
It's the Goff revenge game narrative. We're going with Jared Goff.
Yes.
Love Jared Goff. But I don't actually love Jared Goff. I hate Jared Goff. But out of those options, I'm playing Goff. I don't love it, but I'm playing Goff.
Yeah, I think that is the perfect answer right there. You don't love it, but you got to play. You have to play Goff. No, by all means. Paul on the super chat. A-Rob, Gaskin, or Bateman. Full PPR flex spot. High from Ireland. Look at this. We are international. It ain't me. It must be the Lepre influence here. Maybe Chris has a couple of buddies hanging in Ireland and Japan at text today. You know, let's make this show. We need to bump it up a little more bells and whistles here.
It probably is Chris. So the answer here, Mr. Paul, is I would go ahead and play Allen Robinson. We've all internationally, globally gone away from Allen Robinson. Everyone hates Allen Robinson. So that's what makes me think that Allen Robinson's going to play good because the Bucs defense against the pass is terrible. The question is, will they finally unbubble? I feel like they've bubble wrapped Justin Fields. They just try to run the ball a lot. No, you need to let that thing fly. And hopefully they let him do it this week up against the Bucs because things could be beautiful for Allen Robinson if that is the case. But, it also may not be the case and they may just not do that at all, right? And then you just try to run the ball against the Bucs defense, which isn't going to work. But, I wouldn't put me over the Bears. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears just tried to run the ball a million times up against a tough run defense. But I'd go with Allen Robinson. No way I'm playing Gaskin. No way I'm playing Bateman.
So correct me if I'm wrong here. You are playing every single roster in DFS has Allen Robinson, and none of them have Derrick Henry, right?
No, none of them have Allen Robinson either.
I thought everybody's fading A-Rob, so therefore you're running with him.
No, see, that's what I do. I do think that, but I don't think I have him in every lineup now. Darnell Mooney's a guy I like as well because of that.
Really?
Yeah, I think Darnell. But the problem here is, again, what happens if they just try to run the ball because they're the Bears and they're stupid? That's entirely possible. And then you're pissed off. So that's the issue you're at with this question. But again, Allen Robinson's by far and away the best player in that question. And I think he has the most upside.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when you just look at upside, it makes more sense. All right, a couple more here as we approach lock. Devontae Smith, McKissick, or Aaron Jones and Pettis. So which grouping do you like better? Devontae and McKissick or Aaron Jones and Pettis?
I'd rather play Devontae and McKissick. I don't want to play Dante.
It's Pettis, right? It's just Pettis that you want no part of.
Yeah, that's a guy. That's one of my favorite players from 7 years ago or whenever that was, 4 years ago, right? When he had everyone's talking about that breakout season and then he completely sucked. There's no way that I would want to play him. So I'd rather just go the other way. I think Pettis might score 0 points. And in the other question, no one's scoring 0 points.
That's true. Nobody, just looking, I love it. Just look at the floor and come up. Mike Davis or Elijah Mitchell?
Mike Davis or Elijah Mitchell? I would lean Elijah Mitchell, but I think Mike Davis is safer. I think Elijah Mitchell, every single week you're playing that kind of guessing game. And I don't think that's the same case with the other option.
Yeah. All right. You know what? It's a good point. And that's it. Standard PPR. So real quick, I was looking at this Captain Spock on the chat, giving us a weather update.
He's a weatherman.
The wind, 25 miles from Niners Stadium. So it's windy. It's super windy. And it's going to be a monsoon when it comes to wet and wind and all that nasty condition. So
yeah, that doesn't sound great.
Carson Wentz becomes an interesting option now, right? Because he's not an auto start if you have him. Chances are that if you have Carson Wentz on your team, you probably have another quarterback that's equal to that ranking. Or maybe your starter's on a bye and your backup is Wentz and you're thinking, shit, do I start stream? Maybe I stream a QB. Here's the thing. I don't want anything to do at all with Jimmy G. I wouldn't touch him for DFS season long, whatever it is. I'm looking to find an alternative. Carson Wentz, on the other hand, getting the ball out to running backs, they have two running backs they can throw to. Even Pittman, he doesn't have to be downfield necessarily to get the ball and put up points. I don't know if I would like if I have to play Wentz, my point is, Nick, if I'm in a situation where Wentz is my starter, my backup, I don't know if I'm racing to pivot away from him simply because of the weather, although it probably is a factor.
Yeah, it definitely is a factor. The weather, when I'm not really worried at all about rain, it's with the wind. And if the wind is going to be that high, that is quite nerve-wracking, right? Because originally I read 16-mile-an-hour winds. That doesn't really concern me, but anything over like 20, 25, that seems really bad.
It's enough, man. All right, so what about Jonathan Taylor? Must start. Clearly, you drafted him most likely in the first or second round. Fine. But Hines now bump up some value here because of how shitty of the conditions it is? No,
because look, like, why have they not been giving the ball to Hines? I think because they've fully committed to Jonathan Taylor. Like 2 weeks ago, I think it was like over 2.5 catches for Hines. It was the most obvious bet ever, and I don't even think he caught the ball once. It was that game, the night game up against the Ravens. It was like the most obvious bet ever, and then they fully committed to Jonathan Taylor. I think that's where we're sitting right now, a full committal to JT.
You know, it's funny because I saw your face as I was asking the question about Hines, and you had this look of disgust, and I'm thinking, wow, I didn't think a backup running back like that could elicit that look from you, but it's because you're still holding over that grudge from losing that bet.
Yeah, that guy, he's a scumbag for not catching 2 balls. But in reality, you know, you can't say anything mean about these guys. It's not their fault that he wasn't targeted at all. It's not his fault, obviously.
No. Gibson or Gaskin?
Gibson or Gaskin, I'm going Gibson. No way I'm playing Gaskin. I think I might be able to score more points than Gaskin if you put me out there on the gridiron.
This is a good one here. Hobby World, appreciate it. AJ Green or Bateman? Now you mentioned Bateman, and thank you. We love you too. You mentioned Bateman and how everybody's rushing to play him. Cheap option DFS and the new shiny toy in the league. But the problem with Green is that he's on a squad right now that just added a fifth pass catcher to an already thick squad.
Yeah, AJ Green, I would go with it. I would go with AJ Green. It's so tough though, right? Any given week, you could talk me into it being AJ Green, and then it'll be Rondell Moore, or it'll be any of the guys, Christian Kirk, or it could be Zach Ertz. It could be Chase Edmonds scoring the touchdowns. It could be the other guy, James Conner. It's so tough with that team, but I would go AJ Green because I think the upside is much higher for him when you're comparing him to Rashad Bateman. I think the upside for AJ Green is a touchdown, maybe 2 touchdowns, whereas for Rashad Bateman, do you really see that coming? I don't personally.
No, you're right. That's really looking at the upside, a major difference of it. And that's really, I think, for a lot of these questions, just trying to find the upside. Fournette or McLaurin? McLaurin is back, healthy, ready to go. Don't know if you trust the quarterback so much. Fournette in a great matchup where at least he should get some touches. We'll assume it's a full PPR here.
Okay. My bet is I would play McLaurin, but he's not the safe answer. The safe answer is Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette's going to find the end zone, in my opinion. Leonard Fournette's the safer bet. But I think Terry McLaurin, I don't think the you know what, against the Bears, the upside may be similar. I would go Leonard Fournette. Yeah, I'd go Leonard Fournette, but again, I don't love it. I love Terry McLaurin, but I think I would have to go with the other option. And
McKissick or Devontae Freeman? Pardon me. I was reading that.
McKissick or Devontae Freeman, I would play. I'd play McKissick. And I think it's because the receptions are going to be there, where I'm not sure if that's going to be there for Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, McKissick, I feel like if you're in a full PPR, unless you have somebody that you know in your mind, not you like Nick, but you out there, you know is a better option than McKissick. If you're asking and it's equal or less than McKissick, don't you have to play him?
I would think so. I would think you would have to play McKissick because I think the upside. I think. What was your question again? I might have just listened to it.
No. It was just more of a statement. That's all.
Okay,
that's fine. It was a statement that you could have chosen to react to, or just said, "Yeah, that's fine," and we can move on.
All right, then I agree.
We have a couple of Jalen Waddle questions. All right, and we'll start with Devontae Smith, full PPR. Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith?
Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith? I'm going Waddle. I think Waddle is the clear option in Miami. I hope we win this game. I really do. But I think even if we lose, Jalen Waddle scores Or not maybe not
Waddle,
scores, but he gets like 15, 20 points.
he's going to be the option, especially without Parker. They haven't really figured anybody else into that, at least deep, as you know. All right, what about Waddle or Alex Collins? Same scenario, flex spot here, full PPR.
Waddle or Alex Collins? I've got Waddle again. Alex Collins is a guy that I don't love in this game. I think that with Geno Smith under center again, maybe they're going to try to run the ball. So I fully expect him to play well. But at the end of the day, I'm definitely going to lean with Waddle. I think Waddle is a guy that is basically must start for me. And he is must start. I wrote that up as a must start receiver. So he is a must start receiver.
Oh, look at that. So you actually have backed it up on paper on top of you just saying it here on the show. That's always
on the interwebs paper. Yeah.
All right. We'll sneak as many as we can in the final minute here. Pittman or T. Higgins? Got to go Pittman, right? I mean, not everybody can eat on Cincinnati. You going to go Higgins?
No, I'd go Pittman. But what about with the rain? Now we got to think about the rain. Got to think about everything.
Yeah. I mean, Jamar Chase has arrived. Their tight end is actually in a sneaky spot this week. CJ
Uzama.
Yeah, I was gonna have you do the last name. I was just gonna throw
CJ Uzama. Who's that player that we couldn't figure out what their last name was a while ago?
I think it was him, wasn't it?
No, it was someone else, and it was like the most. I think it was obvious too, and we just couldn't figure it out.
I think it was an obvious one. I can't remember. All right, start one here. Edmonds, Mike Davis, or Robbie Anderson?
Edmonds, Mike Davis, or Robbie Anderson. I would play Edmonds. There's no way I'm playing Robbie Anderson. Like you'd have to be down tremendous to want to play Robbie Anderson. He gets like 9 targets a game and scores 4 points.
Tua or Wentz?
Tua.
Yes?
Yeah, maybe Tua.
Oh, you are such a homer. Come on.
Over Wentz. Wentz stinks. Come on. You're the homer.
He's not even on my team anymore. All right, man. Oh, I love it. Anything else you see on there before we get out of here?
Anything else? I think it locked already.
Slayton or Devontae Freeman in a flex standard PPR?
I'm going Freeman.
Okay. All
right. And everyone who wants to trail what I bet today, I bet on the Dolphins money line as per usual. Cordero Patterson scored a touchdown and Jamar Chase touchdown. Take it to the bank, baby.
Those are your 3?
Those are my 3. Yeah, for now, for the 1 o'clock games.
I'll give you the Panthers -3, the Colts +4, and I'm going to go over 42 in this Jets-Patriots game. Shootout. Right. You heard it here first.
I'm going to trail Aton. We're going Panthers -3 as well.
Yes. I love it. We have now joined forces. All we need is Chris to jump on, and it's the trifecta, all 3 of us. No, he's out. All right.
He's definitely out on anything we say.
Yes. He's already tuned us out. He's just waiting for the outro. We appreciate everybody hanging with us. Click that link if you haven't already below this video. Yahoo is going to sign you up, and then we're going to give you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum with your first deposit and paid contest entry. Make sure you're following, thanking Nick more so than me, of course, on Twitter at Notorious FNTSY. I'm at Shander Show. We appreciate everybody from the Notorious stream popping over here as well. Thank you all. Hit that thumbs up button, please. It does a lot for us. Subscribe. Does even more for us. And we'll see you next week.
See ya.